Climate resilience is about protecting the lives and livelihoods of people. And this is really important because already now, the people that are the least responsible for climate change are suffering the worst. Led by the UN climate change high-level champions under the UNFCCC Marrakesh Partnership for Global Climate Action, the Race to Resilience campaign aims to mobilize non-party stakeholders with the ambitious goal of increasing the resilience of 4 billion people by 2030. So that's 4 billion people. To achieve this, we need to keep adaptation and people at the forefront of the global climate action agenda. But how do we do this? We'll kick off this session by listening to a message from Johan Rockström, professor and director of the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact, and he's also a Race to Resilience global ambassador. So let's hand it over to Johan Rockström.
So welcome everybody. Thank you for this opportunity to address this important Race to Resilience gathering. Climate change, as we know, is not just an amplifier, it's a direct threat. On a planet that is already at 1.25 degrees Celsius of global mean surface temperature rise compared to pre-industrial times, climate change spares no one, exposing everyone across the world, but particularly vulnerability of lives and livelihoods across the entire world. The IPCC's latest report underscores the urgency. Climate impacts are universal, but 3 to 3.6 billion people live in hotspot regions of high vulnerability due to overlapping social challenges that reduce their resilience to the increasing threats they are exposed to, like extreme heat, droughts, and flooding. To halt this dangerous development, we must act on 3 fronts simultaneously. Firstly, we must stay on track to achieve zero emissions by the middle of this century. This is the race to zero. Remember, though, due to our inability to make progress in reducing emissions and the fact that the planet is losing resilience to buffer and dampen the impacts of global warming, we have reached a point of urgency. Temperatures are rising faster, and storms, heat waves, droughts, and floods are getting even more severe. And there is no longer a straight route to 1.5 degrees Celsius, which is a limit. Even if we phase out fossil fuels at record speed, we will inevitably face overshoot before we at best come to something close to 1.5 degrees Celsius by the end of this century. What we know for certain, though, is that overshoot will mean more severe shocks hitting citizens across the entire world. 6 of the 9 planetary boundaries, moreover, have already been breached, leaving Earth, our shared home, in a critical condition. All planetary boundaries, climate, biodiversity, the ocean, land, nutrient flows, fresh water, pollutants of various forms play a significant role in determining the stability of the planetary health. This means that the second action endeavor is to build Earth resilience. Currently, we're putting the biogeophysical Earth system at stake by breaching the boundaries across all the biosphere, which determines the buffering capacity of the planet. We need to transform back into the safe operating space for humanity within the planetary boundaries, also to have a safe climate future. This is Earth system resilience, a part of security for all of humankind. Finally, the third resilience challenge is that we know that climate impacts are part of a larger interconnected crisis. Climate change, biodiversity loss, pollution jointly harm both planet and human health. People themselves urgently need to become more resilient to threats of global change. Implications of this? It means that we have 3 lines. One is to reduce emissions by 7.5% per year to have any chance of a manageable climate future. Number 2, build Earth system resilience to come back within Earth's safe operating space of a resilient, healthy planet. And 3, build social ecological resilience in agriculture, cities, industries, and communities across the world. This is the triple race to resilience. This transformation requires a whole society approach to scale, replicate, and sustain resilience building efforts within the urgency required. Success lies in our ability to rise to the moment as a global collective. This means mobilizing communities, policymakers, business leaders, and scientists towards the same goal, to safeguard the health of our planet for the sake of human prosperity and equity. This is not a call to some utopian challenge. This is not fantasy. We have the institutions, we have the scalable solutions that are economically viable and can generate healthier, more resilient and modern sustainable societies. The Race to Resilience campaign represents a commitment to this vision, a future where all people live within a resilient and stable planet. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, George Rockstrom, for those important words. So, where are we right now on resilience? Let's find out and listen to a keynote from Maria Alejandra Aguilar, Race to Resilience campaign manager at the Climate Champions team. So, welcome, Maria, and you have the floor.
Thank you very much for having us here today, and we don't have time to celebrate the Race to Resilience progress and the amazing work that our partners are leading. So as Professor Johan Rockstrom was mentioning, there is almost 4 billion people critically exposed to climate impacts. The climate crisis is here, is impacting everyone everywhere. And this is the reason why the Race to Resilience campaign was created back in 2021 by the UN Climate Change High-Level Champions, to bring adaptation and resilience at the same level to net zero and mitigation, with the ambitious goal to mobilize non-party stakeholders. So a whole of society approach. We're talking about business, the private sector, cities, state, regions, civil society, to increase the resilience of 4 billion people by 2030. Now, as we are finalizing the third year of the campaign, the Race to Resilience continues to make important progress. We have now 41 partner initiatives, over 600 members implementing action across 164 countries. And this year alone, we welcome 7 new partner initiatives and 4 new regions through Regions Adapt. Among the regions, we have Pernambuco, Brazil, Andalusia in Spain, Assam in India, and Luga in Senegal. So it's really encouraging to see how our movement continues to grow. And collectively, these partners have reached a very important milestone this year by presenting action plans for protecting the lives and livelihoods of more than 2 billion people, those that are most vulnerable to the climate crisis. And our partners are also committed to scaling up these efforts with pledges that now stand at 3.26 billion people, getting us closer to that 4 billion people goal that I mentioned just now. So we are excited to see how our partners are delivering on resilience. For example, partners from the private sector are stepping in for nature. We have our partner One Planet Business for Biodiversity announcing that they reached 3.6 billion in investment, 300,000 farmers enrolled in programs. We have Arise members investing in mangrove restoration in El Salvador, benefiting 180 families with restored ecosystems and protection against storms. And we have partners that are delivering on ocean and coastal community targets. You will hear later from the Ocean Risk Resilience Action Alliance, but they have invested already $45.5 million in innovative solutions, benefiting over 174,000 coastal community members in the Global South, of which 78,000 are women. Or the Global Fund for Coral Reefs, who have provided catalytic support for over 60 reef-positive business and financing facilities, and 1.69 million hectares of coral reef areas under improved management. And so partners are working to improve people's living conditions. Take, for example, Build Change, delivering resilient housing for more than 1 billion people, and Sanitation Water for All, advocating to countries to incorporate water, sanitation, and hygiene as a core element to adaptation in national determined contributions. So from water and sanitation to infrastructure, nature, and finance, the Race to Resilience partners are leading the way to a more resilient and just future. And now, in today's panel discussion, you will get the chance to see the diversity of the Race to Resilience partners and their work and how they are championing people-centered action. So thank you very much again, and over to you, Katharina.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Maria. This is truly inspiring. It really shows the importance of collaboration and leadership, and also, of course, diversity, and also using the non-party stakeholders in keeping adaptation and resilience at the core of the global climate action agenda. So here to talk more about this, I have three prominent guests. Wonderful to have you here in the studio. And we need to talk about how we can move faster together, right? So next to me here, I have Ariane Steinsmeier, Global Outreach Director, Ocean Risk Resilience Action Alliance. And next to Ariane, we have Amit Kumar Garg, Lead Strategy in Asia Pacific, Global Shield. Great to have both of you here. And last not least, we have Efwe Nwakame Apia, Energy and Just Transition Coordinator, Green Africa Youth Organization. Long titles, important work you do. Wonderful to have you here. So the overarching question here, first I get to my questions, but I'd like for you to get some reflections of Maria's intervention here. What would you like to say, Ariane, to start off? Your reflections on what Maria talked about.
Yeah, thank you very much. Maria was really kind to already mention some of the progress we have made, and we are a proud partner of Race to Resilience. And so over the last 5 years, we have invested in a project pipeline which really showed that radical collaboration between different stakeholders, and especially also the private sector, can make meaningful implementations of new financial products also on the ground. So with 50 projects now, we have been launching new financial products like parametric insurance and other key innovations to really reduce risk of vulnerable coastal communities. So that is one of the area we are doing, but we also want to not only show locally led solutions, but really also foster systematic change in terms of resilience, and therefore also building much larger scale financial products with some of our insurance and key banking partners as well. So I will leave it there and hand it off.
Thank you, Amit. In terms of how is your initiative working on this topic, what could you share with us?
Thanks. So I like to pick something from the
Please
keynote. And I think it connects really beautifully with the work we just heard here. The challenge is too big. We all know it's too big to be solved by one person, one company, one initiative, one government. And I was also listening as the researchers was talking about. So how do you then address if it's too big, right? Then we do need a whole of society approach. That means different actors with different instruments need to all work together in some form. It's not always easy to work together at a very large, multilateral system. But we do need to make sure that our initiatives are complementary and they are going towards the same area. So from that perspective, like Global Shield against the climate risk, very briefly. For the viewers who do not know, it is a joint G7 and V20 initiative.
G7.
And V20, Vulnerable 20 Group initiative, was launched at 2022 COP. And Global Shield is primarily working with our country constituencies in leveraging what we call pre-arranged financing, a set of pre-arranged financing solutions, so that a set of finances are in advance arranged to be able to quickly deploy them. So, some we heard, for example, insurances, a certain type of insurance contracts are such where you already arrange them, so you can just, if when you need the money, the money becomes available. And that also reflects a little bit of the complementary or whole of society approach, because we are talking about leverage here. It's like $1 leveraging additional money in terms of risk capital. And the money does not always have to come from, say, taxpayer. It also comes from the private sector. And I'm sure we'll have a chance to learn a little bit more into the implementation. Global Shield in the first 2 years, it's now, let's say, in the third year. We are currently working with 17 countries in deploying a various set of pre-arranged financial solutions. Some already have received some sort of financial assistance, but Global Shield, through its financing vehicle, also provide a host of different range of financial as well as technical assistance. And we'll probably we'll speak a little bit more as we go forward in the discussion.
Thank you very much. So, Efwe, your organization, how do you address this area?
Right, I think I'll take it off from also what Maria was saying. For the number of organizations and communities that we work with across Africa, mainly in Uganda, in Botswana, and Ghana. Those community members, for them, the Race to Resilience campaign are not barely catchy phrases or a strategy, but is a dream of achieving their resilience daily, of them collaborating with organizations such as Gaio to build their resilience, and for them to be able to be resilient against those climate stresses that they are exposed to yearly. So for our Water for Adaptation project that we co-created with the Kadiga Nankana district, there's a community, a small community in the Upper East region of Ghana that are exposed to prolonged drought, and because of systemic norms and traditions, women are mostly sidelined, and especially when there's a lot of norms and tradition around menstrual hygiene and all that has put women at their barest minimum, and they are not able to come out from it. So for this project is mainly targeting how to build and help those communities adapt to prolonged drought, water insecurities that they are facing, the food insecurities that they are facing. And for now, it's very amazing to see over 5,000 people, that is each household in the community, having access to potable and sunny, like good, clean drinking water. As of they walking for 5 kilometers or even more to just go and get water, this initiative has given them water for each member in their community. They have access to potable drinking water. And also for the agriculture activities, the community is just mainly herdsmen and also farmers, like small-scale farmers. So this prolonged drought is really limiting to them. With the initiation of the ponds across the region Vantage Point, we've been able to increase harvest up to 30% in the dry season. And then there's a resource center that we created for them to manufacture reusable parts by themselves. They were trained to use things that are around them. They have cottons, they produce cotton in the region, so they use this to manufacture reusable parts in the region. And this is very good for them because they are getting livelihood out of it. Their capacities are being built, and they are able to go to school during their menses also. So this is the kind of things we are doing, and we hope to scale it and replicate it in other communities.
Thank you. This is truly impressive. I wanted to give you a follow-up question on the scaling here, because this sounds like really a successful work you're doing. So how can you scale, and what do you need to scale?
Yes, so the issue of scaling, it could boil down to financing, but the model we've built it with the communities, and we have young people already propagating this change in other districts that are not part of them. So we have volunteers who are out of school ladies going to nearby communities also and spreading the news. And what is impressive about this is that we have a community, or they are deep rooted in patriarchal systems, and those norms have to even be broken before we are able to penetrate and let them understand what we are trying to do. So those young people are already going to the communities and breaking those norms to lay a fertile ground for even to scale to those communities. And because we are using things around them, we are using resources around them, and this is co-created with them, they own it, they are able to use the things around them we don't need to go and import resources. That would be very stressful for them and be cost intensive. So those mechanisms have been in place, and we've trained them on soft skills as well, like marketing, how to brand their product, how to sell them. So they are getting incomes, and they are reinvesting it into the project to keep it and to scale to other regions as well. Yes.
Well, thank you very much indeed. So Amit, from your perspective of Global Shield, what do you need to become even bigger and stronger? I mean, and you're facilitating the resilience of other organizations, of course, with how you work, but how can you become even more a power player here?
I think, how can we become more stronger? I think it boils down to, maybe question would be, how can we, going back to your question, how can we enlarge the scale of our impact?
The scaling, yes, of course. Scaling is stronger in my world. Yes.
So I think it's similar to, it does come down to financing a lot, but there is, I mean, it's, of course, it's the next challenge, but before even that, we do have the challenge in ensuring that there are systems in place. And that is what, with the vision that Global Shield actually was set up, as a multi-party initiative, that we are trying to move the systems concerning disaster risk financing in the country, move them from a more projectized approach, if I may use the word, to a bit more institutionalized approach. So, and that we hope will make the way towards scale. And in practice, how it works is, for example, say, the initiatives concerning disaster risk finance traditionally has been somewhat more scattered, and they largely has been more focusing on responding. But now we are looking at instruments that are already working in what we call pre-arranged, or a different version you will hear, pre-position, pre-arrange, and so forth. So what that allows is working with our government counterparts, including also other non-government national stakeholders. We are able to then put them under one set of instruments connected as a chain, so that the disaster risk financing is, when it's kicked in, it is kicking in at different level of the chain in the DRF space. We call it the macro and meso and micro, meaning that at government level, there are sovereign solutions that government can then have access to that financing should a certain identified set of peril were to materialize, and there is a trigger, let's say a category 3 cyclone bringing certain speed of wind, let's say a 200 millimeter rain that's happening over 2 days, and so that money becomes available at the government level, but at the same time working through the private sector in the country through inclusive market systems. You can also have the local private sector participating in it, and further ensuring both that the benefits are reaches the individual. There is, of course, that governments are working, but it's also important that there is small amount of money is made available to the individual within few days. So that happens through working through our inclusive market systems. And then, of course, this also ensures that the capacities for such instruments are retained inside the countries, and they are, there is a transfer of such capacity, and they over time grow. And that's what we hope will bring more scale, and hopefully will have a larger impact. And of course, we are still working with our participating countries to increase the scope of the Global Shield. We do hope that we'll be able to take up more countries than 17. We just yesterday
Can I
launched.
ask what countries you're looking at?
Sorry?
Can I ask what countries you're looking at to have joined?
So we currently have 17. Just yesterday, Global Shield launch is ambition framework. And of course, subject to our ability to attract further pledges, we are going to be looking to working further within our CVF Climate Vulnerable Forum V20 member countries to hopefully we'll be able to add more in time. But we also want to make sure the work we do in the current set of country reaches a certain level of maturity, so that the focus is more around scale. And again, it's about institutionalizing certain systems, not so much about having, say, 50 project, 80 project, 100 project. It's more about having a system in place with the government. So the mindset moves away from responding to already proactive action. So that's kind of the thinking, and these are plans, and the ambition framework talks quite a lot about it.
So if I understand it correctly, it's when chaos hits, which it does, and it will be hitting more frequently, there will be a structure that's much clearer than what it is now.
That's already put in place.
Yes.
So then, at least for that part, of course, the impact of any disaster is difficult to really predict. There are enough studies, but it's never going to be enough. That's the hard, unfortunate reality. But there is still something you can do. It's always better to be a bit more prepared, not through other measures, such as there is a lot of work happening in disaster risk management, risk reduction, training, capacities. But in the end, we always little bit hit the block when it comes to financing. And many times, especially climate vulnerable countries, just don't have the fiscal space to then quickly draw out of their fiscal budgets. So what we see in a number of countries, on our portfolio countries, that what an individual end up doing is they end up go into what we otherwise call a negative coping strategy. They will sell assets, they will draw from their pension funds kind of start to add different type of risks. So
create
that
problems down the road.
exactly. But if you have already taken a proactive action, then there is already money available that's going to come with an if, of course, right? That there is a contractual arrangement. So that's the approach and the methods. There are a number of instruments around that space in the financial system. So that's what we are working with our government counterparts to institutionalize them into national disaster risk planning and policy efforts.
Thank you very much, Amit. So, Ariane, from your perspective, what challenges do you need to overcome in order to scale and pick up the pace?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, first I want to remind everyone today is Ocean Day or Nature-Based Solution Day, so happy Ocean Day.
Happy Ocean Day.
And I think that also shows that the role of nature really plays in terms of disaster risk reduction. And often at these COPs, in the past years, we really have been fighting for more of attention around nature-based solutions, especially ocean-based solutions. So that's why today it's a great day to highlight it and share these stories. I think while the challenges are real, so are the solutions. And I think that is also the message Johan Rockström has given in the keynote speech to say, we have the solutions and we have the will, and now sort of we are here to fight for the political will as well. So here at COP, obviously it's important that we come to a good conclusion around finance and integrate ocean finance into climate finance as well. I think it's important that we overcome the challenge of how sort of global political policies are then translated in national policies. That's why also we have been putting forward for this COP a paper around unlocking these ocean-based financial solutions and really integrating nature-based solutions and especially ocean-based solutions in NDC. So that I think is one of the things we're looking forward to increase and have seen here quite good progress in the COP with some of the countries announcing it. And then in terms, you already pictured some of the realities on the ground, like how do you then integrate it into disaster risk planning, but also, I mentioned NDCs, but coming from the biodiversity COP, it's really highlighting therefore also the synergies with the with biodiversity and some of the targets around 30 by 30 and putting that into the national biodiversity plans. I think on the local level, we have seen that collaboration, especially also with other sectors, has been really powerful, as I mentioned, to not only now pilot these new insurance or risk reductions tools, but now you mentioned also the scaling piece. It's really important to see sort of what is there for the national and the local circumstances, and then now we are testing out on how we are scaling some of these solutions in different regions, and that has been really powerful as well. I think in terms of these challenges, as I mentioned, really it's important for us to make sure that we are fostering further these collaborations, and one of the things we're looking forward to in the next 6 months when we look forward to the UN Ocean Conference is really also working with our private sector and banking partners to see how some of the shifts in their investments can go towards the regenerative and sustainable blue economy. And I think Aura, together with its partners from the ground up to top down, has shown that investing into ocean, it's basically our insurance policy, is really not only a possibility, but it's an investable proposition. And I think that's why we're really looking forward to the next 6 months to make more, bring more attention to the investable propositions and celebrate that at UNOC. And then obviously Brazil has been quite keen to put forward ocean into their COP. And so that's where we're really looking forward to the next 12 months to make them count.
Thank you very much. So if could you share last, before we finish this panel, a great example that something that might be happening soon in your project, or just something that to sort of highlight the positivity of what we're talking about here? I'll give you the final word here.
Yeah, sure. The project is also training young females and building their capacity, and we are excited to say that we brought 2 of those females trained to be part of the country negotiators, and we are excited about what they are going to do back home, because we are integrating them into NAPS processes, into the NDC processes, and we want them to reflect their challenges in there and make sure that those NDCs and the NAPS that we are going to develop are able to solve the challenges that the communities are facing. And on replication and scaling, we are excited to expand our scope into new regions, into new communities, and also help them build their resilience as well. So mainly on skill building and replication. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us in this panel, and it'll be exciting to follow your work. And let's move on to the next session here. But we have so much hope in your solutions and your work. Thank you, all of you, and also, of course, the Race to Resilience and Johan Rockström for his speech here. And if you want even more people to watch this important session, you could just share it with your followers. It's all available on wedon'thavetime.org, and you can reshare the clips here from your interventions here, because remember, together we do move faster. Thank you.